All right, so here we are on Erev Shabbos Bamidbar, going into Erev Shavuos. And according to the Gemara, we always read Bamidbar before Shavuos. And according to the Gemara, we always read Bamidbar before Shavuos.
Yeah, I thought that was meals for a second. I'm like, wow, that's
There you go.
dedication.
All right, so.
But in Israel, they're reading Naso this week.
Exactly. Sometimes they read Nasa if necessary. But the reason actually we're not catching up with Israel sooner is specifically for this reason.
Oh, so
because really,
I was
it's
wondering
supposed to
about
be
that.
by
We
Midbar before
we had
Shavuos.
two double parshas.
We could have done it, but we like the fact that Bamidbar is before Shavuos. When it doesn't work out, Nasa can be.
So we'll do a
Sometimes it happens.
Matos Maseh.
Matos Maseh, correct. So, point is that there are different reasons for this. And the simple reason the Gemara says is it's to interrupt between the curses of the Chukoisai and Shavuos. On the one hand, the curses are considered something important to strengthen us and help us do tshuva and so on. On the other hand, we don't want to go straight from the curses into Shavuos. So Bamidbar acts as a bit of a hefsek, an interruption.
The same thing with Rosh Hashanah also.
Exactly. Something Rosh Hashanah, we go from Kisavai to Rosh Hashanah with Nitzavim in between. So in this case, we also have other remazim, also other allusions that connect Bamidbar with Shavuos. And of course, the simple thing is that the Parsha and the Chumash starts with Vaydav Hashem Moshe b'Midbar Sinai in the Sinai desert. And the Medrash Tanchuma says that the Torah was given with three things: with fire, and with water, and in the desert. How do you know with fire? Because it says Vahar Sinai Oshan Kulim Ibnei Asher Yard Olav Hashem Bo'esh Ayal Hashon Ekesh Nakishin Vayechot Kalahar Ma'oid. Mount Sinai was completely smoky because Hashem came down on it with fire, and the smoke went up like the smoke of an oven. Kivshan, you translate Kivshan. Furnace, that's better, thank you. And all the people trembled with water because it says Hashem b'tzeischa meseir b'tzadecha. And the pasuk in Shoftim describes the water that is dripping by Har Sinai. Let me actually find that pasuk, just to give you the full quote. Give me a moment, please. Hashem B'tzeischa Meseir B'tzadecha. This is in the 5th chapter of Shoftim in the Shir of Devarim. Devarim song. Hashem, when you went forth at Seir, B'tzadcha B'snei Edom, when you marched out of the field of Edom, Eretz Rasha, the earth trembled. Gam Shamayim Notfu, the heavens also dripped. Gam Ovim Notfu Moy. Dripped with water. So there was water happening there too. And finally, of course, it took place in the desert. Like it says in the Sinai desert. Why was the Torah given with these three things? To tell you, just like these three things are free to all those that come into the world, so too the Torah is free. Like it says, Yeshaya says, all those that are thirsty should come to the water. Even those that have no money, they should come and buy and eat without paying wine and milk. And this is talking about the Torah. You shouldn't have to pay for Torah. And in the desert, an additional reason for the desert, in addition to the fact that water, fire, and the desert are all hefker, they don't belong to anybody. Another specific thing we learn from the desert is just like the desert is hefker, so too a person, in order to acquire Torah, has to be humble. Okay, so That's what the Medrash says.
State
So-
water is not so free.
Well, the charging for the service, presumably.
There's companies that own water. What we would just buy up water.
I mean, you
on
can't
your
just
property,
go.
You can't put up a water bucket to catch water coming out of your, pouring up in rain.
Really?
Probably be illegal in many states.
Really? Why?
Well, I didn't know that.
Depends where. Some places it's legal, some places it's not.
What? You sure about that?
Well, if you put a cup, no one's gonna stop you. If you put a large water
Well,
cup.
how do they own that? How does the state own the? I mean, this is communist Russia. What
Yeah,
does that mean?
space.
No,
How do they-
there are laws preventing this for such farmers. They don't want a farmer who's uphill to prevent the farmer from getting water.
That's
Farmers
riparian.
in the city.
That's
In the city, it's
riparian.
going down the
That's
city
sewer.
something else.
probably won't.
Going down the
city probably
sewage.
won't. But I'm saying in the city, no one's gonna tell you anything.
Wait. Taking the water, if you just gather the water that's coming down, that's one thing. But if you divert it or something, that's another story.
No, there are cities, by the way.
The thing that comes on your own property without some sort of permit. You could, in some
But how are
places.
you
could get
taking
fined.
away from someone else's water?
No, if it's a farming area and the water that comes through one area,
But that's
you know,
you're diverting it.
no.
You're catching
Even the
it, you're
rainwater
collecting it.
would eventually go towards the stream, and you're stopping it. There are cities, by the way, that are.
And most natural springs, not most, but a big percentage of natural springs are now bought up by companies.
From who they buy it from, the government.
Yes.
Okay.
Privatized water.
All right. So we'll have to work on that. But there are cities, by the way, that are now making houses specifically with roofs that catch the water so the people in the house can actually use that water instead of it just being wasted. And up to a third of the doors. Yeah. In Brisbane, Australia, I understand they're doing that. So anyway, I thought to speak a little bit about prophecy, since we say that the Torah is open and available for everybody. So the truth is, the idea of prophecy, of meriting to hear Hashem's words, communicated to you, is also something that is actually something we can all aspire towards. It's not an easy thing to accomplish, but we can all aspire towards it. And in fact, when Mashiach comes, it says, in those days, I'm going to pour my spirit on all flesh, and your sons and daughters are going to prophesy. And of course, it already happened at the sea when all the Jewish people said, they already experienced the prophecy. So, I'm going to focus a little bit on the concepts relating to prophecy, and specifically also on certain prophets that are not so well known, just because we should give them the recognition that they deserve. Everybody knows of the famous prophets, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu, Shmuel HaNavi, Eliyahu, Elisha, Yeshaya, Yirmiyah. But in fact, the Gemara in Megillah says that there were 48 prophets. All right, you ready?
Prophets means that they gave eternal prophets for all generation.
Exactly. Rashi on that Gemara says that, of course, there were thousands of prophets whose names we don't know, because their prophecies were not important for all generation, and therefore they received it they received the prophecies for their own edification, for their own spiritual awakening, or maybe also for the people in the generation, but only for that generation. It wasn't important for further generations. So therefore we don't know about them. In fact, we read in the book of Shmuel that Shmuel had a prophecy school. You can go to rabbinic school nowadays and churn out rabbis, and Shmuel was churning out prophets.
The next venture.
Not really, but I don't think so, actually. I don't think so. The prophets, actually, according to the Rambam, had to be independently wealthy, because the whole point is they shouldn't be needing the people,
Oh, I see.
because then they're beholden to them. If you're beholden to somebody, how are you going to tell them off? And the prophets, that's what they had to do very often. They had to tell the people how bad they were. Yeah, leaders, yeah. So what's the pshat? What does it mean he had schools of prophets? Because to be a Navi, you have to really be on a high spiritual level. And he was training them to be on that level. I'm going to read the Rambam, the first halacha of chapter 6 in Yesodei HaTorah. Prophecy is bestowed only upon a very wise sage of strong character who is never overcome by his natural inclinations in any regard. Instead, with his mind, he overcomes his natural inclinations at all times. He must also possess a very broad and accurate mental capacity. A person who is full of these qualities and is physically sound is fit for prophecy. Pardes, which means the four aspects of the Torah, and is drawn into these great, Pardes in this context actually means the hidden secrets of the Torah, and is drawn into these great and sublime concepts. If he possesses an accurate mental capacity to comprehend and grasp them, he will become holy. He will advance and separate himself from the masses who proceed in the darkness of time. He must continue and diligently train himself not to have any thoughts whatsoever about fruitless things or the vanities and intrigues of the times. Instead, his mind should constantly be directed upward, bound beneath Hashem's throne of glory, striving to comprehend the holy and pure forms, which are the angels, of course, and gazing at the wisdom of the Holy One, blessed be, in its entirety, in its manifold manifestations, from the most elevated spiritual form until the navel of the earth, appreciating his greatness after them. After these preparations, the divine spirit will immediately rest upon him. When the spirit rests upon him, his soul becomes intermingled with the angels called Isha. He will be transformed to a different person and will understand with a knowledge different from that which it was previous. He will rise above the level of the other wise men. As the prophet Shmuel told Shaul, the spirit of Hashem will descend upon you, and you shall prophesy with them, and you will be transformed into a different person. Now later on, the Rambam says, even so, even when you do all of these things, Hashem may choose not to give you prophecy, because it's a gift from Hashem. But nevertheless, you can make yourself worthy of prophecy through what he's describing here: overcoming a Yetzer Hara, strolling in the orchard of the Torah, meaning understanding the secrets of the Torah, and cleaving to Hashem in your thoughts, and not thinking empty and vain thoughts and so on. So this will bring you to the level of prophecy slowly. But after all, it's still up to Hashem. Like, for example, now, even if a person reaches this level, prophecy doesn't happen nowadays. It was taken away from the Jewish people because communally we no longer deserve it. So it says in the Gemara, for example, that Hashem once said, a voice from heaven came out and said that there's somebody amongst you that is upon him like Moshe Rabbeinu, but the generation is not worthy. The Chachamim felt that was Hillel HaZaken. The only thing happened with Shmuel HaKatan. So the point is, the people have to be worthy of having a prophet. Besides the prophet,
when did it end?
It ended at the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash with Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Those were the final prophets.
And what differentiates prophecy from Ruach HaKodesh?
So my understanding of it is that, I can't say I prepared that topic specifically, but my understanding of it is that Ruach HaKodesh is a certain feeling that a holy person gets, and if he's in tune with Hashem's will, he just has a certain feeling that this is the way it's supposed to be. They say that the Rebbe Maharash, there's a story about the Rebbe Maharash, the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe. There was the train station next to Lubavitch where he would take the train, and the station manager was friendly with him. He was an important person. He happened to be a wealthy person also, but he was also a leader of many Jewish people. So the station master would hold the train for him if he was late or whatever. Anyway, he was waiting for the train, and the train was time to go. The whistle, the first whistle, the second whistle, the third whistle, and the Rebbe Maharash was sitting there. He wasn't going. So the station master came over to him and he said, Rabbi, the train is about to go. If you want to go on it, now's the time. So the Rebbe said, I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer. And he sat there, and the train left. Anyway, before the next train even came, they got a telegraph that that train went off the tracks, and there was, I don't know if there was fatalities, but there were certainly injuries. So the station master realized that the holy rabbi didn't want to go on that train.
Yeah, because you think the guy had something to do with it.
So he went over to the Rebbe Marash. He said, Rabbi, I want to understand. I realized that you didn't want to go on that train, but if you could have told me, we could have not sent the train off. We could have fixed it and whatever. So the Rebbe Marash said, I didn't know that anything was going to happen. I just had a feeling that I didn't belong on that train. And that's it. And when I have certain feelings, I know that that's the way it should be. So now that's a Rebbe, you know what I mean? If I have a certain feeling, I turn over and I go to sleep on the other side, and that's it. But a Rebbe, he has a certain feeling, and because he's so in tune with Hashem's will, he's so used to following Hashem's will that feeling is something. It's meaningful. So that's what I understand it to be. And especially in the context,
in modern times, like Baba Sali, and is that the same concept?
Something like that, yeah. Does it mean Hashem actually told them? I mean, there's so many things where they actually perform miracles and told people do this, don't do that. Does it mean Hashem said to them a voice in their head, or does it mean they just had a feeling? Like a Bechanina ben Doisa, right? When he would pray for people, if the prayer flowed out of his mouth, he knew the person was going to be well. And if he couldn't, if it was like a stumbling prayer, he knew it wasn't a good sign. It's not that Hashem told him, but that was his awareness of the way Hashem, kind of showed things to him that he became aware of that.
Just because he didn't feel like he was supposed to go on the train didn't mean it wasn't supposed to happen. Those people were supposed to whatever. So
that's also true. That's also true. That's also true. That it's different. Every person has their own destiny.
Everyone on the train had their feeling they don't want to go on, but they had the feeling they should go on.
Well, but they weren't Rebbes, so that was different. It was different. But in terms of Ruach HaKodesh, there's another aspect of it, which is an inspiration to be able to comprehend the secrets of the Torah. Umegalan le'rozei Torah. We say in Pirkei Avos, right? To be able to comprehend secrets of the Torah. That's also like a bit of Ruach HaKodesh. The Maharal says that about a Gili Eliyahu. What does it mean to get a Gili Eliyahu? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're an old man with a knapsack that's showing up at your door. It means that you're learning and you get a comprehension that's beyond your capability. That you just, you get the shot. You get it, which is something that's a gift from Hashem. That's like a little bit of Eliyahu. Eliyahu is the one who straightens things out. In the Gemara, there's a question. We said Eliyahu is going to come. So you had a question. Hashem helped. You got the answer. That could be like a little taste of Eliyahu. So the point is.
And dream is a different level. If somebody have a voice in a dream, or
also a dream. Actually, it says that Hashem,
or an ancestor comes to you in a dream. Is that that's not nevuah?
So actually, it says that even though prophecy stopped, but Hashem still does communicate through dreams. So that's like a little bit of like a glimmer of prophecy that still exists in this time. So we don't. It's sometimes hard to tell. Is it a prophecy or is it just stum? People have thoughts and it comes back and so on. So the point is that normally a person has to be ready for nevuah, and otherwise it doesn't happen. However, there are exceptions to this rule. So we spoke already about at Shir HaSayam, when they experienced prophecy. And according to some opinions, they prophetically said the entire Shira with Moshe Rabbeinu together. Some say Moshe Rabbeinu said it and they responded. Some say that the spirit of Hashem rested upon them and they prophetically knew what to say together with Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, of course, they had been on the 49th level of impurity just 7 days earlier. It was a gift from Hashem. Hashem can make a person a prophet even though he's not worthy. It's not the normal way. Normally, a person has to work for it, but it can happen. Another exception we find is with Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech was running after David, wanted to kill him. Whole story, of course. David ran to Shmuel And he was, for bringing with Shmuel and learning. They were discovering the Beis Hamikdash, where it should be built, all the secrets Shmuel was giving over to him. Anyway, when Shaul came, so he found that they were in Shir, in prophecy Shir, and it says that Shaul took his clothes off and he prophesied. Simply, it means that he took off his kingly garments to be more humble, put on simple clothes, and he prophesied. And from then on, people say, as an expression, Hagam Shaul Banavim. Since when is Shaul a prophet? That became an expression in Hebrew. Like, who are you to be a prophet? He wasn't prepared for it. But it happened. That was to give David actually time to run away while he was prophesying. So that was an exception to the rule. He didn't become a prophet from then on. Just at that moment, he experienced prophecy. And then there's a little discussion about Amos, the prophet Amos, who was one of the 12 prophets, the Trei Asar. So there's a little bit of a machlokes about him, differences of opinions. If he was a very sophisticated tzaddik, Talmud Chacham, and so on, the way the Rambam describes it here, what a person has to be, or if he was, as he is described in the beginning of Amos, Vanoiktim mitkoya. He was a herdsman. Noiktim is an expression for sheep because they have spots. So he was a herdsman from Tekoya. He was a shepherd. Now, of course, shepherds can be holy people. The forefathers were shepherds, and Moshe, and so on and so forth. But the Abarbanel says, yeah, he was a shepherd. He was a simple man. So how can you say he was a simple man? Actually, the Abarbanel is not very happy with the Rambam's take on prophecy. Abarbanel feels that the Rambam is taking the philosophical approach to prophecy, as if prophecy is like the highest level man can achieve with their mental capacity and their cleaving to Hashem. It's like almost like your own thing that you're able to accomplish. Whereas in fact, the Abarbanel says prophecy is a gift from Hashem. No matter how much you work for it, you'll never deserve it. You'll never be on the level that you actually deserve to have Hashem communicate with you. It's always a gift from Hashem. That's true. That's true. So, but prophecy is not a natural thing. That was what we have as part of nature. Hashem set up a natural world. But here, prophecy is supernatural. So if you'll never deserve it, you don't even have to work for it. I mean, you have to work to be a tzaddik anyway, but I'm saying there's no recipe to being a Navi, according to the Abarbanel. Hashem chooses whoever Hashem wants, whatever Hashem wants to choose. He wants to choose a herdsman, he'll choose the herdsman, and so on. So the Malbim has a bit of a compromise between the Rambam and the Abarbanel. Don't think I came up with this on my own. This is in the Living Nach. The Living Torah by Aryeh Kaplan. So then I don't know who even wrote the Living Nach, but somebody took on his style and wrote, translations of the Nevi'im. So in their introduction to Amos, they quote these sources. So he says, the Malbim says it's not really an argument or a contradiction because the Rambam is talking about the normal way it works. The normal way it works is that a prophet has to work to be a prophet. However, if it's necessary, Jewish people need to be rebuked. They need to be told whatever it is. Hashem will choose whoever is available. There's no high-level tzaddik, Talmud Chacham, Kabbalist. He'll take a shepherd. And that's apparently what happened with Amos. Why was it so necessary in that time? So Amos was living at a time when the Jewish people outwardly were very successful. The king of Yehuda was Uzziah. And we read about Uzziah in Divrei Hayamim. He built fortified cities. He recaptured parts that had been taken from Yehuda in earlier generations. The king of Yisrael was Yeravam the second. Forget his father's name. And Yeravam the second also was busy conquering back territory that had been taken from the Jewish kingdom, from the northern kingdom. But this wasn't because they were righteous. This was simply a kind of a lull in the powers around them. Aram was in decline because Ashur was ascending. So this was like in between. Aram was going down, Ashur was going up, but they hadn't really become so powerful. So it was in between, and the Jewish state had this like little lull in between that they were able to be successful. And they thought, look at this, we have a good life, we can enjoy life. They made houses out of marble, excuse me, not out of marble, out of ivory. Imagine that. Imagine how many elephants have to die. I don't know if the whole house was ivory, maybe just a room out of ivory. Batei shein, that's how it's described. The houses made of the tooth, the elephant tooth. So and drinking wine and just living it up. And not realizing that you have to earn your keep. You can't just take from Hashem and think that it's coming to you without earning it. So he told them off, good and proper. He informed them what's coming. Death is coming, exile, suffering. And the way he actually words it within Amos, if you read it, first of all, he's a poet. And he speaks in very eloquent language, which maybe does point to the Rambam's being correct. He wasn't a simple herdsman. He wasn't a simple man. He was a very eloquent person. Because even though a Navi is communicating what Hashem tells him to communicate, but he's still, the Hashem communicates it to him in a way that will sound natural for him. You understand? That's why every Navi sounds different. Yirmiyah has his style, Yeshaya has his style. If they are just microphones and mouthpieces for Hashem, then why is it different? The answer is Hashem speaks to the Navi in the language that he is accustomed to speaking, and that's how he gives it over to the people. And as the commentaries point out, the audience that Amos was preaching to was also a sophisticated audience. Because otherwise, why is he giving these fancy mishalim and poetry and speaking about different stars that your average simple person wouldn't have even heard of? He was he was.
They wouldn't have interpreters that would explain it to people?
I don't know. I didn't hear that. I don't know. So it seems that he was speaking to a sophisticated people as well. Maybe not so God-fearing, but nevertheless knowledgeable. So the point is, just to go off, I know the shir is not supposed to be about Amos, but a lot of it is about Amos. So anyway, so when he prophesizes the fall of the house of Yeravam, that they're going to be wiped out, although he doesn't say it about Yeravam himself, because it happened to the next generation, that there was a rebellion and that house was wiped out. So the high priest of the idolatrous house in Beisel, right, which is what the first Yeravam had already set up, the high priest couldn't handle it anymore. So he says to Amos, he sends a message to Yeravam. Kashar alecha Amos. Amos is rebelling against you. And we can't handle his words, saying that you're going to be killed, which wasn't actually true. Because he didn't say Yeravam is going to be killed. He said the house, the dynasty is going to be wiped out. So Amatzia says to Amos, Choyze, calls him a Choyze. That was one of the Nevi'im. They're called Navi. The word Navi means to speak. Arnav Achicha Yeneviach will be your spokesman. It also means like to interpret. and it also means one other thing. I think it means like a messenger. But anyway, Choize means the seer, right? Like Shmuel is called Haroya, Anochi Haroya, right? When Shaul was looking for his father's donkeys, so he was looking for the prophet. He called him the Roya, the seer. Choize is the same word. God was also
Rabbi Lublin had the seer rabbi or something?
the seer, the Choize. Yeah, same name. Yeah. Anyway, he says, run back to the land of Yehuda. Some say that he was from Yehuda because he was from Tekoa. It was a Tekoa in Yehuda. It was another one of the Galil, but some say he was from Yehuda. So he says, go back to Galil and eat bread there, and you'll prophesize there, making fun of him, as if he's prophesying for his bread. You know, like a Maggid comes to town, he gives a drasha and he wants a tip. So go over there, they'll feed you over there. Don't prophesize in Beis El anymore. This is the king's palace. And basically, we don't want to hear what you have to say. So Amos says to Amatzia, I'm neither a prophet nor the son of a prophet. What he means to say is, I'm not like your prophets that are false prophets and are actually just saying it to get the bread that the people give them. That's not what I am. Ki voiker anoichi uvoiles shikmim. I'm a wealthy man. The simple translation of voiker is a herdsman. But the commentaries say actually, More Geseano, I own the herds, and I have sycamores in the plain. Another translation of Voiles Shkamim is, I am a surveyor of trees, because they needed an expert they probably still need experts to see when the tree is ready to be cut down and be used for whatever they use it for. So he was an expert at that. So I have my own independent income. I don't have to prophesize for my bread. And Hashem took me from the sheep, and he said, go prophesize for my people, the Jewish people. And anyway, by the way, he says to Amatzia, you're finished. Your wife is going to cheat on you. Your children are going to be killed in the sword. Your land is going to be given away to others, and you're going to die in a foreign land. And the Jews in your era are going to be exiled. So he was not very sparing with his prophecies. So the point is, we see from these words, what I mentioned earlier, that a Navi had to be wealthy. Like we see that he points out that he's wealthy, he doesn't need them. Similar to what Shmuel's policy was. Although now that I'm saying it, I'm remembering Elisha was not like that. But Shmuel, wherever he took, he went with his whole household, meaning to say he never relied on anybody's handouts, because he didn't want it to be said that he is, since he was a judge, he didn't want it to be said that he was partial to people who supported him. But now that I'm saying, and I'm remembering that Elisha would accept, people's donations, like we see that he was taken care of by the Shunamis, and they made him a little place to stay, and they gave him whatever he needed when he came. And the Gemara actually says on that, Elisha. If you want, you're allowed to benefit from, people honoring you as a Talmud Chacham, as a tzaddik. But if you don't want, you don't have to, like Shmuel did. So that's optional. So I'm not sure how that fits into this whole thing. Maybe he was wealthy, but when he traveled light, and he accepted the kindnesses of other people. I'm not sure about that. So I'll just speak about a certain Nevi'im.
Wasn't there a false prophet that had prophecy once?
Yes. Actually, yes. I don't remember his name.
Is a one-time exception different from normal?
Yeah, like we see by Shir Sayam, Hashem can and by Shol, sometimes.
But Shol and Sayam, they're all at a high level. It wasn't a.
Well, the Jewish people, they weren't Rishayim, but they had.
Malchus. It was, they were elevated
I'm
after.
saying they were elevated by that Gilui. They hadn't worked for it. But, I mean, they weren't bad. They weren't bad. I mean, the bad ones stayed behind or died, but whatever. Yeah, it's true.
Shaul was also a very elevated person. But a false prophet doesn't seem like a very. I mean, it doesn't seem like a person who would even work on himself. He's going around lying.
Right.
But I mean, there was obviously a need for it at that time for whatever reason.
At that moment, yeah, it was a thing. The story with that is, this was Edo, who was the father of Zechariah. Sorry, the grandfather of Zechariah. Edo was sent by Hashem to reprimand Yeravam, and Yeravam was sacrificing on the Mizbeach, and he prophesied that Yeravam's house was going to be destroyed. He said, as a sign of that, the Mizbeach is going to split in two, and all the ash is going to come down. Yeravam pointed at him like to tell his soldiers to take him away and kill him, and his hand became paralyzed. He couldn't move his hand. He asked for the Navi Davin, for the Navi Davin. He let him go. And then the Navi went back to Yehuda, because Hashem had told him, do not stay in Sherman overnight. Do not eat there, nothing. Prophesize and leave. So then a false Navi heard that people had to let the true Navi go home without feeding him, and he sent his sons to call him back. And he said, no, I can't come back, Hashem said. So the false Navi said, I'm also a Navi, and Hashem told me that you're allowed. Change of plan, you can come. Anyway, unfortunately, he believed him. He went back, they ate together, and while they were eating, this false Navi experienced a true Nevuah, and he told Edo that you're going to die. Hashem says, because you didn't listen, you're going to die, and that's what happened. On his way back, a lion killed him. Didn't eat him, killed him, and actually guarded his body until they found him, buried him. And the false Navi said to his children, when I die, bury me next to him. And that's how he was saved. Because later on, when Yehu rebelled against, I don't remember who it was, whoever was the successor of the house of Achab, and he killed out all the Nevi'im of the Baal, and he burnt all of the graves of the Nevi'im. But then they came to the grave of Edo. They said, no, this is a real Navi. We're not going to burn this one. And the false Navi who was buried next to him was saved because of that. Anyway, the story goes that the Gemara, I think it's the Gemara, the Medrash says that we see over here the power of Hachnasas Orchim. The mitzvah of Hachnasas Orchim is so great that it causes the Shekhinah to descend on a false prophet. Anyway, an interesting little incident. Okay, so I'll just share with you a little bit about some little-known Nevi'im. We could talk about them all night, but just a few. I will mention actually that being a Navi was not fun and games. People got angry at them. People imprisoned them. Amos was in prison, for example, for the way he was speaking about the king's house.
Probably just 90% of them were lying. So people didn't trust
Well,
them.
that's also true. It's also true. But they didn't. The people didn't want to listen to them.
Is it that they knew they were real and they don't want to listen to them, or because they said it's another quack? There are hundreds of them running around.
Yeah, but those were Nevi'im of the Baal, and these were Nevi'im of Hashem. Now, not everyone believed in Hashem.
From Hashem also.
Right, we find that by Hananiah ben Ozer. We do find that, but Yirmiyah was Yirmiyah. People knew who he was.
He was real.
People knew, they didn't want to listen to him for the most part, but they knew. I think actually Hananiah ben Ozer had been a true Navi. I came across that. He was a true Navi at one point, and then he kind of turned bad. I don't remember the details of that, but I read that. So that's why it was so difficult to choose between them, actually. Hananiah ben Oizer, no, it was not with Yirmiyah. Who was he with? Hananiah ben Oizer. I forget who he was with, but it wasn't Yirmiyah. It was Aram because it was Achav. Exactly. So Novois was the spirit of falsehood. Hashem said, "Who's going to be a spirit of falsehood is going to go into the false Nevi'im and tell them what to say." So Novois volunteered. That was Hananiah ben Oizer, and the true Navi, it was Micha. I think it was Micha, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, a Navi was a little bit of a dangerous job. In fact, several Nevi'im were killed in their line of work. Yeshaya was killed by his own grandson, Menashe, who couldn't handle the prophecies about what would happen to him. Edo, we learned about, where he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought Hashem changed his mind. Unfortunately, it was not true. And another one that was killed was I think it was Shemaiah. Shemaiah was an advisor to Rechavam. I think he was killed by Basha.
Zevel killed a whole bunch of prophets, or at least tried to.
Yep, exactly. Zevel killed out all the Nevi'im of Hashem besides the 100 that Ovadia managed to hide. But actually, just going back to that era, actually, two interesting things about Nevi'im that is not so well known. Yoina ben Amitai was the son of the Isha Hatzarfatis. He was the son of the woman who fed Eliyahu. When there was a famine, Eliyahu came to a place, and there was a woman that he met, and she was a widow, and he said, "Can you feed me?" And she said, "I have nothing. I just have a little bit of oil and a little bit of flour, and I'm going to make this little cake for me and my son, and then we're going to die because we have nothing else to eat." So Eliyahu says, "Kara kemach lo yisechsar." The flour's not going to run out, the oil's not going to run out, and you'll be fine. And he stayed there, and she fed him during the famine. This is the whole famine that he started because people weren't listening, so whatever. So he asked Hashem to close up the heavens. So that son later died, and Eliyahu had to bring him back to life. He was Yoina. And the son of the Isha Hashunamis was none other than Habakkuk. Habakkuk was the son of the Isha Hashunamis. The Isha Hashunamis is the one who supported Elisha. And Elisha blessed her to have a son. And he said to her, next year you're going to be hugging a son. And when he brought him back to life, and he said, "Come," after he brought him back to life, he said, "Come take your son." And she lifted him up and she took him out. That's why it's Habakkuk, a double hug. The first hug when she had him, and then later when he was brought back to life. So another interesting thing is that some say Malachi was actually Mordechai. This is just skipping forward a few hundred years. Some say Malachi was actually Mordechai, and some say that he was actually Ezra. Different shittas about Malachi, what his real identity was. But anyway, Rashi, in the list of 42 Nevi'im, that he lists in Megillah, Yudalid, lists them separately, Malachi and Mordechai. So obviously, he's going with that opinion that they are separate. I'm sorry.
What was Nevuah of Mordechai?
I guess. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. The truth is, not every author of a book in Ksuvim was considered a Navi. I have to think about that actually, because Rashi does list Shlomo and David. So what else do we have in Nevi'im? Tehillim, Mishlei, Kehelas, Shir Ashir, Rus, Shmuel, Eicha Daniel, Ezra Nehemiah, right. Those are not listed. That's a good point. And Daniel's also not listed, actually. I don't know why not. Daniel's not listed. He has the voice. His dreams. His dreams. Does he actually have the voice? I think it's all dreams. I have to look into that. There are other shittas, by the way, about these 42. This is the list that I use is Rashi, but there are other shittas. The Seder Olam has a different list. So, what else can I tell you?
There's somebody getting through. The only thing is that you two have seen the same. It's there. She's there. Same thing for you. It's there. We're gonna go the right path. It's there. Yeah.
Why was it necessary for the to rebuke the Yidden, and afterwards it was just Tzaddikim rebuking people? What was the fundamental difference? So why is there a different time? What's the reason for it? I mean, if Ezra wasn't a Navi, and time Ezra and Nehemiah Yidden were doing terrible, and they came in, they made everybody improve without him.
All right.
So was Nevi'us necessary, or was it Yidden were on such a high level that they happened to have Nevi? I mean, besides obviously for Moshe, where you have to have whereas Nevuah involved the Torah and everything.
Right. Right. I'm not really sure, actually. I mean, on the one hand, you could say that it's just like the fact that, there were times that there were miracles of biblical proportions, and that kind of got less and less, and then we started, the world started to run in a more natural way. Of course, miracles still happen, but in a more hidden way. And, that's just, the beginning of our history. We needed kind of extra boosts and extra.
But it seems like the Rambam lists as one of the 13 Ikrim. It seems like it's a very, it might be just because of love Moshe. But it seems like it's a fundamental part of Torah, the fact that
right. Well, we do learn many things, from the Nevi'im, like Ksuvim, even though we don't learn new halachas, but we learn how to understand previous halachas many times, right? I was actually going to talk about that more this year, but it just didn't happen. But even though it says Divrei Torah, Divrei Kabbalah, Le'alfinim, we don't learn mitzvahs from the Nevi'im, but at the same time, we do learn the interpretations of many mitzvahs in the Nevi'im. In other words, we have contradictions when the Navi said this and the Chumash said that, so we have to come up with an explanation to understand it, so that helps us understand, different things in the Torah. So, yeah, that's what I thought too, but, things happen. What actually happened is when I started preparing the class, I found this list of the Nevi'im, and I said, wow, I never even heard of these people. Who is Yehu, son of Hanani, and Hanani himself, who is Shemaiah, and Micha, of course, is Micha, Azariah, the son of Oded, Yachaziel Halevi, Eliezer, son of Doidavahu. I just had to find out who these people were, so I ended up being diverted. Uriah, the son of Shmariah. These are all people in the 48, Nevi'im. Neriah, by the way. Baruch was the son of Neriah. His father, Neriah, was a Navi, and his brother, Seraiah, was a Navi also. I don't know if we have any other group like that. Actually, Moshe and Aaron were brothers. And we do find father and son combinations. Whenever a Navi is mentioned with his father's name, by the way, it means that the father was also a Navi. So that's a side point. And we have a grandfather also here as Zechariah, the grandson of Edo. But I think it's the only one we have two brothers and their father. So, that's another reason. It is one of the Yugim Likrim to know that the entire Tanakh is, from Hashem. All right, there is more to talk about, but hopefully you'll get it in your email.
Okay.
My pleasure.